It's a good AGam in Kansas morning. Good morning. Let's take a look and see what's coming up today. Today on AGam, Kyle Bauer is joined by Ely Sprenkle with Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism. Next up, learn about the 25 by 25 Alliance. Then Mark McCully with Certified Angus beef talks about quality and beef demand. Next, learn about a wheat streak mosaic virus gene that KSRE has found. And we'll end with Dr. Chris Blevins and Dr. Katie Delph discussing West Nile virus in horses. Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer with Ely Sprenkle. He's a district's fishery biologist with Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. Eli, I'd like to visit about what the state of Kansas does in their wildlife or in their fisheries, if you will. You have an extensive program. How does it work?
So with our private impoundments, we have a program. It's called FISH. It's an acronym for Fishing Impoundments and Stream Habitats, and that's where there's private impoundments or streams or river habitats, and we pay the landowner to allow public access on it. And then so now that it's open to public fishing, anglers can come in, they can fish. So we do management on that. So for a pond, we'll come in and stock bass, we'll come stock bluegill, we'll evaluate it, see how if they'll have those species in there. We'll regularly stock channel catfish to maintain channel catfish populations. And then it's open to the public access, so we'll put up signs, let the public know where it is. We put up an atlas to show everybody where the pond is, where the lake is. And then we'll pick up trash and try to keep an eye on the place. And so now that it's open to public and it's open to public access.
But most of your effort is spent on raising fish and stocking the big reservoirs.
Yeah, so I have 6 counties that I manage the public fishing impoundments in. So that includes, in my district, it's 4 state fishing lakes, the Tuttle Creek Reservoir, and then what we call community lakes. That are lakes that are owned by a county or a city. And so those are open to public fishing. So that's where we stock fish, we sample fish, we set fishing regulations, and that's the main part of my job is managing those public impoundments in my district.
Now, you mentioned your fish program where you contract for public impoundments, but if I don't do that with you and I want to stock my pond, I shouldn't call you.
No, you can call private fish producers. There's several of them in the state. That most of them are involved with an association is called Kansas Aquaculture Association. So you can go to their website, and they have a list of everybody in the state who sells fish. But yeah, we can't sell so these are state fish that we raise to put in public impoundment. So I can't stock, private ponds with them unless they enroll in our public access problem. So to get fish for a private pond, you need to get it from a private producer.
And how many different species of fish does the state of Kansas raise? I realize that might be a tough question, but it can't be that many. It's surely about half a dozen, I would think.
For fish that we stock, we raise channel catfish, blue catfish, largemouth and spotted bass, white and black crappie, bluegill, red ear sunfish, wiper, walleye, sawguy, sauger, striped bass. And so those are just the ones I can think of off the top of my head. And then things like trout, we purchase those from other states or trade with them sometimes to get trout to stock in our winter fisheries.
We're visiting with Ely Sprenkle. He is with the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks, fish biologist.
To see this show and past episodes of AGam in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Dwayne Thames joining you once again with AGam in Kansas, and a chance to catch up with Ernie Shea with the 25 by 25 program, but also a bigger picture maybe as far as renewables and looking at providing energy resources from across the country from a wide variety of sources, I understand.
Well, that's right, Dwayne. The 25 by 25 Alliance is a farmer-led 10-year-old alliance that's been working to talk about energy solutions from agricultural landscapes. And when we think about solutions from agriculture around energy, we don't think just about biofuels. They're a critical component, a critical way we contribute, but so too is wind, solar, geothermal, low-flow hydro. There are many ways that the agricultural landscapes can contribute energy solutions. And with the current administration's continuing concern about national security, about economic development, about jobs, we think we're well positioned to continue to demonstrate that the heartland, rural America, is where we can look for answers and solutions.
We think about that, not only is it production of, but the usage by the average consumer that will make this system flow and work.
That's right. And I think consumer choice is an important driver of future investment decisions, future production decisions. We've been benefiting from government policies that have kind of driven a new way forward, but the future of those is going to be debated over the next couple of years. But what won't be debated would be the consumer's demand for cleaner products, efficient products, energy sources that are produced here at home. And that's what we've begun to focus on in this first 10 years of 25 by 25. But as we've had these energy conversations, we've come to appreciate the fact that farms, forests, and ranches produce more than just food, feed, fiber, and energy. We've come to better appreciate the fact that we filter water, we create biodiversity, we create landscapes that provide viewscape for people that are interested in those types of outcomes and benefits. We provide, even in this era of difficult conversation about climate change solutions, because when we farm sustainably, when we use cover crops and no-till, we're sequestering a tremendous amount of carbon. So out of that has come a recognition that we need to broaden the 25 by 25 conversation into a wider conversation of the multiple solutions that farmers deliver from the land. And that has had us morph to become the solutions from the land not-for-profit entity that is a place where farmer leaders are talking about the multiple solutions they deliver and going on the offensive with the conversation of how managing farms in a sustainable way is something that provides multiple public benefits. We are tired of having to defend ourselves and react to individual problems, whether it's water quality or endangered species, or you name the problem that has been directed back at agriculture. So this is an effort to go on the offensive, talking about landscape scale solutions that meet public needs and priorities.
And we think about those system-wide approaches that we use in agriculture. A healthy environment is a healthy environment, whether that's for growing the crops and livestock that we typically think of, or the urban areas and the landscapes that they can enjoy on the outskirts of town as well.
That's right. And these, for many economists, they would call them externalities. We call them co-benefits. But the farm community's been, over the decades, put in a position of having to defend what they're doing rather than promoting these multiple benefits. So we now have a platform where farmer leaders are standing up and saying, wait a minute, my farming operation feeds you, clothes you, produces fiber, filters water, sequesters carbon, creates habitat for biodiversity. It's time to be valued, recognized, and at some point compensated for these wider range of goods and services that we deliver. Our leaders feel that we have been underappreciated, undervalued for decades, and this is a chance to change the conversation. If we are at the point where we're going to revisit how we go about incentivizing producers to farm sustainably, why not create market incentives in the form of ecosystem service payments that reward farmers for this wider range of contributions that they make for the public benefit? So that's what we're about in Solutions from the Land. There's a clean energy pod. There is a climate smart agriculture pod. There is a strong recognition that we need to use a different business model to operate. And our business model is one where we are less government-centric and more multi-stakeholder collaborative in terms of how we operate. We are thinking at a different scale instead of just hotspot to hotspot. We're looking at how we can operate in larger landscapes, so much bigger than what we've thought about in the past. We have recognized that this whole payment mechanism, as I mentioned earlier, is a critical key to a new way forward, and we're exploring how markets can be structured to reward the producers that are delivering in these areas that people have just taken for granted. So it's an exciting new platform, and we're very fortunate to have a tremendous group of agricultural leaders across the country that have stepped up and said they want to be a part of it.
Our thanks to Ernie Shea joining us with the 25 by 25 Coalition and Solutions from the Heartland.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways, of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at KFRM.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on AGam in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
There's a lot of different ways of doing this woodwork, but I could not make a knife without both hands, especially without this thumb. And my thumb was so sore that I couldn't even touch it, and they wanted to fuse it, and I said no, cut it off, because I didn't want it sticking up. And I found out about the Kansas regenerative stem cell and went to Manhattan and had that taken care of in my thumb, and now I'm able to go again.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
While cattle prices fell dramatically since 2014, premiums began to make up much more of the total animal value.
The impact of the quality premiums have gotten far more significant. They're a bigger percent of the total animal value today. So the cattlemen need to be paying attention to that as we move into some of these different trading levels and different price levels of the importance level that those quality premiums have in the marketplace.
Even while 70% of the nation's fed cattle grade choice, McCully says the incentive to produce it remains strong.
I don't think cattlemen need to get concerned that there's going to be too much of a good thing out in the marketplace. We've not seen any slowing of the spreads between the premium product and the commodity product. In fact, they're continuing to separate.
The Choice Select spread hit record highs in recent months, along with the premiums for reaching the Certified Angus beef brand.
Cattlemen need to be aware that really this increase we've seen in the quality level of the herd is a great thing as it relates to consumer demand. But at the same time, as we look at all grids and premiums are typically paid on some sort of your value, your cattle's value relative to plant averages. So as plant averages have gone up, it's important for cattlemen to understand that they need to be keeping up with that pace, because what was maybe premium cattle 5 and 10 years ago today might be just average cattle. And And so being able to make sure that they're aware of where the trend is and keeping their herd in line to make sure they're able to garner those premiums on the top end.
Being profitable at the ranch level means taking into consideration all the maternal and end product traits when making genetic and management decisions.
They've got to have a functional herd first, and it's about making sure they're keeping in mind all of the important traits around keeping that mother cow to where she gets bred and is a good mother and raises a good heavy calf every year. But it's keeping quality in that equation as well, because keeping in mind the genetic decisions that we're making today are going to be with us for a long time. Those females we're putting back into the herd, we hope they're going to be with us 12, 14 years down the road, and the impact. So never taking our eye off of that consumer and keeping a level of focus on quality as a balanced part of a management strategy for a commercial cow-calf producer.
McCully also says continuing to give beef consumers the product they want fuels demand. I'm Bob Cervera.
Brought to you in part by the 65th Annual Eskridge Labor Day Rodeo, September 2nd and 3rd. If you love rodeo, mark your calendar right now for the 65th Annual Labor Day Rodeo in Eskridge, September 2nd and 3rd at 7 p.m. This is entertainment for your whole family, calf roping, steer mugging, barrel racing, and more. Now let's rodeo.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
The ruckus, to put it mildly, that Wheat Streak Mosaic has created in the 2017 Kansas wheat crop, especially in the western parts of the state, where that disease has caused massive losses to producers where it's really taken hold. As we've spoken of before, the complicating factor with Wheat Streak Mosaic is that there is no effective fungicide response to it. Therefore, where it takes hold in a wheat field, it can really cut loose and dig deeply into yields. Kansas State University researchers have now identified a gene that will provide resistance to the Wheat Streak Mosaic virus. The so-called WSM3 gene is just the third gene known to provide resistance to wheat streak, and the first that can do so at outdoor temperatures of 75 degrees Fahrenheit and higher. The first two genes known to provide resistance to the virus, WSM1, that was identified by K-State scientists about 25 years ago, and WSM2, which was discovered by researchers at Colorado State University. But those two genes only provide protection in lower temperatures. The technology has improved considerably since then, to where they eventually identified WSM3, also derived from wheatgrass.
6 years ago, we had a whole arm translocation, and once we had this one, we used directed chromosome engineering to shorten the intermedium segment to make it smaller, and finally came up with a chromosome which only had a small piece of this wheatgrass chromosome attached, integrated into the wheat genome, and this was we named WSM3.
And used in combination with WSM1 or WSM2, this warmer weather-friendly WSM3 could become part of a breeding mix that could give producers much-needed relief from wheat streak mosaic troubles.
We have produced now recombinant chromosomes which have much smaller segments, and we are screening these lines now if they still maintain the WSM3 gene. And this material will be then distributed to breeding companies, and is the stuff which will go into cultivar development.
As Burns said, it's been a quarter of a century of diligent research work to get to this point.
25 years to come from here to a whole arm to here. 25 years. We actually started about 7 years ago, so much shorter to get from here to here, although it was much more difficult.
Tarwater Farm and Home has been family owned and operated since its beginning in 1978. What you need for farm and agriculture, lawn and garden, clothing and footwear, and so much more. You'll be surprised at what you'll find in this huge store. They have what you need and lots of it. So come take a look. You'll discover that customer service is first and foremost. Always has been with the Tarwaters. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard.
Hello friends, I'm Ernie Rodina.
And I'm Dawn Dawson with the Better Horses Radio Show.
For over 9 years, we've been bringing the Better Horses Radio Show to markets all across the Midwest. We talk about God, lots about horses.
We talk about cows, we talk about horse health, we talk to top trainers, and we even talk about Roy Rogers.
We are having a blast with Better Horses Radio Show and would love to take it to a market near you.
So visit our website at betterhorsesradio.com and let us or your local radio station know you'd like to hear it in your area.
The Better Horses Radio Show is unbelievable.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Hello and welcome to Horsing Around. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Today joined by Dr. Katie Delph. She is one of the internal medicine clinicians here at the vet school. And today we're going to talk a little bit about a fairly common disease that maybe people may not think is common, and that's West Nile. Some people, horse owners will not recognize whether to really need to vaccinate for West Nile anymore because we don't hear anything about it. But what are kind of things going on about West Nile? Do horses still get West Nile here in the United States or even in Kansas?
Yes, so horses do still get West Nile. First came to the United States in 1999, and it has seen a downturn since kind of the first few years, but horses still do get West Nile, and we do have vaccines for it, and it tends to be horses that aren't kind of adequately vaccinated that do tend to get the disease.
Now you met a couple good points on that. One is that horses, or we don't see as many horses getting West Nile now like we used to. And why do you think that is? I mean, we obviously still have horses that are getting sick with it. How come we don't have as many horses getting sick with West Nile?
So I think why we don't have as many horses getting sick is because there are a few different vaccines available on the market for horses. So that is a nice luxury we have as horse owners as a prevention tool. And working with veterinarians, you can actually get your horse vaccinated for West Nile.
So how would you adequately vaccinate your horse for West Nile? Like what type of protocol would they need to be considering if they're going to vaccinate their horse for West Nile?
Yes, so for a young horse like a foal, probably the ideal time to start vaccinating, if the mare is adequately vaccinated, is when they're 4 to 6 months of age. Okay. And then they should have basically 2 boosters by the time they're 12 months old. So 3 to 4 weeks after the initial vaccine, and then again kind of 2 to 3 months after that. Again, kind of 3 vaccines by the time they're 12 months old, and then an annual booster thereafter. If there is an older horse that hasn't been previously vaccinated, they would need a similar course, having an initial vaccine and then 2 boosters again, and then annual boosters thereafter.
I think that's interesting to remember that when people give maybe the first time the vaccine, it's not necessarily that protective, or potentially not as protective as if they do the whole series. So I think making sure they consult with their veterinarian to make sure they're adequately vaccinating there at the first part is important.
Yes.
So how do horses, we've talked about this before, but again, how do horses get West Nile?
So they do get it through a mosquito that bites, that feeds on the horse, basically, that has fed on one of our amplifying hosts, which are birds in our area. So birds actually have the virus in their bloodstream, and then the mosquitoes feed on the birds, and then are able to pass the virus on to our horses.
And that's also interesting that, there's people that sample mosquitoes and they're positive for West Nile in Kansas, all over the United States, here in the lower 48. So I think keeping those things in mind is important. So
yes.
Well, thank you, Dr. Delph, for giving us some kind of updated version of West Nile and that we still need to vaccinate for West Nile.
You're welcome.
I'm Dr. Chris Blevins at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center, and we'll see you around.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.